Thank you so much, Emma, and thank you, LongHash, for having me here tonight. It's an honor to speak at ZILHive Demo Day, as well as the batch 3 of LongHash's incubation program. As Emma said, my name is Remington, and I'm a partner at Fenbushi Capital. We're the first blockchain VC in Asia. Being an early investor in the space, I've had the privilege of witnessing the tremendous growth in the industry over the past few years. When I first entered the space, most people hadn't heard of Bitcoin yet. And the ones who have probably just thought it was an illicit currency used to traffic drugs on the dark web. And now, 5 years down the road, we are potentially days away from the second largest economy in the world, China, launching a central bank digital currency that was inspired by Bitcoin. It's a long way that we've come in a very short amount of time. But despite this progress that we've made, we are still in the extremely early days of what we believe will be a major paradigm shift, which will be at least as disruptive as the internet in scale. Many people say that blockchain today is like the internet in the 90s, but from a technical perspective, we think that it's closer to internet in the 80s. If any of you, who in the audience has tried to use a decentralized app before? A few of you, but this is also not representative of the whole population, because if you try to use a decentralized app today, it feels like you're dialing into CompuServe on a 2.4 kilobyte per second modem back in the 80s. And it is clear that we've passed the peak of inflated expectations in the hype cycle, and a lot of people are seeing that there are a lot of high expectations in 2017, and now the reality is that we're still very early. But as we dive into this trough of disillusionment, it's also important not to forget that we have already built up a critical mass of stakeholders who are continuing to push the technology forward. Every founder, every developer, every investor, and every enthusiast in this room today, we're not in here because it's 2017 and we're expecting to make a guaranteed 10x return on the token. We're in here because we see the long-term potential of the technology and are here to support the builders who are moving us closer to that reality. As 2019 draws to a close, it's a good time to look back at some of the key milestones that we've achieved over the past year and see what we have in store over the next year. Even though a lot of us feel that the hype has died down this year, I would argue that instead the hype has actually transferred to a new group of people. In particular, if I had to sum up 2019, I would say that this is the year that major governments around the world and corporate executives of Fortune 500 companies started taking blockchain seriously. And this is thanks to two major catalysts, Facebook and China. First is Libra, the digital currency being launched by Facebook. As the highest profile blockchain project to date, Libra not only forced a number of 70-year-old US senators and European Union finance commissioners to understand, to study, and to debate about blockchain in the government. But it also pressured many other Fortune 500 CEOs to take a serious look at how to implement blockchain strategy within their companies. After the announcement, one of these governments is the Chinese government, because after the announcement of Libra, China's central bank, which has actually started researching digital currencies since 2014, started accelerating the rollout of its DCEP, Digital Currency Electronic Payments Project, which will be the world's first major and largest central bank issued digital currency. In fact, the latest report just this Monday suggested that pilots will start rolling out in Suzhou and Shenzhen starting as early as this year, which means the next couple of weeks. Not only has this gotten the attention of other major central banks around the world, but virtually every company, all the millions of companies in the world that have any business with RMB is going to be potentially affected by this. Now finally, this October, President Xi Jinping of China called for China to seize the opportunity to develop core competencies in blockchain technology. This has elevated blockchain to the level of a national priority. And local governments and companies around China over the past few weeks have been racing to form their strategies around how blockchain could be implemented in their respective domains. What I've mentioned earlier has been the high-profile initiatives that are putting blockchain on the agenda on a whole new group of stakeholders. But behind the scenes, the original builders in the space have continued to push the technology forward as well. Right here in Singapore, Project Ubin, which was first announced in 2016, has already completed the 5th phase of this ambitious project, evolving from what was initially just a simple proof of concept tokenizing the SGD to a more mature ecosystem right now, which is capable of interoperability across different stakeholders, settling transactions using different blockchains. Ethereum, which was launched despite many criticisms about the length of time towards its 2.0 roadmap, has just pushed out its 3rd hard fork this year, Istanbul, over the past couple of days. And ZILHive, which was launched in 2017 amidst the hype of ICOs, stood out from the crowd by launching its mainnet earlier this year and continuing to iterate by launching its smart contract functionality in June, integrating Elliptic's AML KYC compliance just last month, and continues to have a lot of pieces of critical infrastructure falling into place to make the platform more mature. What does this all mean? This means that despite blockchain not grabbing as many headlines this year as in previous years, we not only have the original builders of the ecosystem pushing the technology forward, but also at the same time have been attracting more participation from new people outside the industry, from global governments to Fortune 500 companies. But even though many people already recognize the potential of blockchain, not a lot of people are using it yet. Even in this room, less than a third of you raised your hands earlier. Why is that? I would argue, in my opinion, that 3 of the key barriers to mass adoption are user experience, convergence, and just good old traditional business development. First is UX. There are many dApps out there that have already a proven value proposition, but it's simply too difficult to use. For instance, if I told my friend today that there's a decentralized finance application out there where you could earn 7% stable returns on your income, who wouldn't be interested in that? But then if he asked me how to do it, I would have to say, first you go to an exchange, you open an account, you do KYC AML, you wire your money in, you get a multi-sig wallet, you back up your keys, you stake on a smart contract, et cetera, et cetera. Halfway through that, my friend would have walked away and never returned my calls again. I think people and companies are inherently lazy. There's a lot of inertia against changing existing behavior. So it's a good thing later on today you'll be hearing from startups that are trying to improve UX, whether it's allowing you to buy and sell crypto from your existing chat app or being able to create digital collectibles by just one click. The second barrier is convergence. With all the excitement around blockchain, it's easy to forget that blockchain is simply one technology that solves one specific problem. Most applications that we use today on a day-to-day basis are made possible by a whole stack of technologies. Take Uber, for example. Is it an internet app? Sure, yes. But is the internet alone enough to enable an app like Uber? No, not even close. Because Uber would not be possible without the convergence of 3G wireless internet, of GPS, of resource planning, of a host of other technologies. And I think in the same way, it's hard for us to envision that killer app for blockchain just yet, because there might still be pieces of that technology that are still falling into place. So it's a good thing that later on tonight as well, you'll be hearing from some startups that are exploring this convergence, such as trying to bring together blockchain and IoT technologies to build solutions for customers. Finally, the most important barrier, in my opinion, is that a lot of people forget is just good old-fashioned business development. A lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the mentality that if you build it, they will come. They think that the product is everything and people are lining up to use your products. That is very far from reality. You could build your product to be the best product in the world, but if nobody hears about it, then nobody's going to come and use it. So it's great also that later on tonight you'll be hearing from some startups that are pushing out their go-to-market strategy, whether it's going out and knocking on doors and signing up over 100 partners to work together in their ecosystem, or whether it's building new incentive models using blockchain native incentive models to incentivize stakeholders to attract new people into the ecosystem. So we hope that by focusing on these 3 things, UX, convergence, and go-to-market, that we can begin to see traction over the next few years. Finally, in addition to focusing on adoption, the other major trend that we see coming is increased collaboration in space. From the start, we at Fenbushi have encouraged an open, collaborative, and inclusive model. Having invested in over 120 projects globally in our ecosystem and fostering synergies, communication, and cooperation between our portfolio companies. Companies like Wanxiang, like Fenbushi, like LongHash, we've already been working together for many years and focusing on developing different segments of the value chain. LongHash itself has partnered with Enterprise Singapore, with ZILHive, with Polkadot, with many of the other enterprise partners that Emma mentioned to develop the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And projects themselves like ZILHive have already supported dozens of startups through 5 waves of grants that they've done to date. All of us in this room are participants in the blockchain industry because we believe in the power of decentralization. Decentralization also implies collaboration and inclusiveness. Anybody can become a node on the Bitcoin blockchain, and the greater number of nodes there are increases the strength and security of the network. In the same way, we believe that the more participants collaborate in the blockchain industry, the more robust our ecosystem will become. As such, we encourage all of you not just to keep working by yourselves on your own projects, but to seek opportunities to work together and collaborate to build a stronger ecosystem and improve the technology and use cases together. Thank you.